from WBBZ TV Sports. It's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Beat the Champ with Hall of Fame bowlers Sue Novoitsky and Janelle Sabin. My name is Paul Peck. We begin a one-month island getaway here at Malwitz's Island Lanes on Grand Island, and we've got an interesting selection of bowlers this month. So we've got vets like Mike Zarcone, Chuck Jagodzinski, Jeff Dio, but we've got 3 bowlers making their debuts and 2 who are only making their second appearance on the show.
Right. Look what happened with Jeremy Zimmerman. He hadn't been on the show, and all of a sudden he was on every single show.
Yeah, so don't automatically assume that somebody who's new to the show isn't going to rattle off some wins. We know Joe Pullman's rattled off some wins, 3 in a row coming off Rapids Bowling Center. He's our returning champion.
Right, and he is a very intense, very serious bowler, and he really practices his game, and he's good at his game. So he's going to be tough to dethrone here at Island Lanes. Even though he didn't get a chance to practice here or to qualify here, he's still going to be tough.
Yeah, and his opponent, Janelle, in the first match, Brandon Degatti, has definitely got the home lane advantage.
Yeah, he works here, so he knows the lanes. We'll see if that has anything to do with it, but we know he's got a big backing crew with him today, too.
All right, so there you go. It's our first match. It's Pullman and Degatti, so let's get rolling.
Hi, I'm on Beat the Champ with our incoming champ, Joe Pullman. Joe, what's the challenge of coming to a new house as the champion and having to deal with these conditions and the change of going from the last bowling center?
Well, I haven't been able to qualify on it, but I have bowled here before. I do know the shot, but I think the scores are going to be a lot higher today than they were at the last house, so I'm going to have to really try to keep up with these guys. That's
right, because here we're going to have a house shot, and we came from a modified house shot, which makes things a little tougher. So practice is important here?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I got here a little earlier, and I've been throwing quite a few. I have a different style approach for this house than I did the other one, so let's hope it works out.
All right, well, good luck today.
Thank you.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with Brandon Degatti, who is up for our first match today to take on our champion, Joe Pullman. You were here for our first show at Beat the Champ, and we haven't seen you since. What have you been doing for 2 years?
Working.
Where are you working?
General Motors and here.
Here? Does that give you a little hometown advantage?
Not working here, bowling here for the last 10 years does, though.
All right, so any nerves?
No.
Doesn't appear to it. So take on Joe, and let's see a good show today.
Okay.
All right.
Joe Pullman with the blue shirt and the glasses. Brandon Degatti, as you get a good look at him in the black shirt, will start things off here in match number 1 from Malwitz's Island Lanes in Grand Island. It's a month-long stay here on the island for Beat the Champ, and we are ready to go. So Degatti will start things off for us here, and we welcome in as our guest commentator for today's show, our buddy and the always entertaining proprietor here of Malwitz's Island Lanes, Mike Malwitz. Welcome in, Mike. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Paul. I'm excited for today. We got 4 of our in-house bowlers that made the qualifier for Beat the Champ, so we got some representation from our home bowlers.
Great, that's great, which means you can provide the expert color commentary on the guys and that you know the best.
I might have a few things to say about certain people.
Well, you always have something to say about everyone, but at this point, we'll keep it to some of the bowling prowess. So here's Joe Pullman coming off a 3-match winning streak at the Rapids Bowling Center last month. And Joe Pullman underway here. 7th appearance on the show for Joe Pullman. An overall record of 6 wins and 4 losses.
And of course, always for the challenge when we change bowling centers is for the champion to have to adapt to a new lane condition when they've been successful at another place and get all adjusted against people who have qualified on it and have already bowled well on it. So it's always a challenge when you change centers.
Particularly in this occasion because, Mike, you know Brandon as well as anybody, and Brandon knows these lanes as well as anybody. As Janelle pointed out, he works here, he bowls here a lot, so not only is Joe coming in sort of cold, but he's going up against a guy who couldn't be more warmed up.
Yeah, Brandon's been bowling here since he was a little kid, so he knows every in and out of every pair in the house, and he's going to be tough to beat.
So the question to you, Sue, is just because he knows every in and out of every pair, including 9 and 10 that we're on here, how easily or not easily does that always translate to victories?
Well, you know, when you're bowling the first match and you are on a familiar condition, like right now, Island Lanes is exactly the way he expects it to be. But as we go on with the show, people throw the ball so different. We have left-handers, we have right-handers, we have people throw it straight, we have people that hook it. It doesn't have just your normal average change that you expect. You know, move a couple boards to the left, move your eyes to the left, the 2-in-1s and all of that. Sometimes those changes change or aren't as ordinary because of the way people throw bowling balls and the different kinds of equipment they use. So this is not the same atmosphere as it would be, say, in a league condition or a tournament condition where everybody plays them the same. So regardless, I think it's still a challenge. It's just this initial match, I think, will be the most familiar that he sees the lanes.
Absolutely, yeah. This will be probably his biggest advantage during this match. Like you said, when you bowl league against the same guys every week, week in, week out, the lanes break down pretty much the same all the time. Well, so today, you know, Brandon's going to run into some differences than he's normally used to during regular league bowling here.
2 strikes in the first 2 frames for Brandon, 2 spares for Joe Pullman. Now, there's an interesting little historical tidbit about this match in that Brandon Degatti bowled in the very first match of the return of Beat the Champ in early 2016. Match number 1, he winds up losing to Jason Siliberto at the Rapids Bowling Center. And we haven't seen Brandon on the show since then, since that one match. So his Beat the Champ career is 0 for 1. Well, who won the first week's match back in 2016 on Beat the Champ? Joe Pullman was our first weekly winner. So we've got an interesting little historical connection to this match.
Now, I don't know how many...
You must be working, Degatti, way too hard that he hasn't been able to qualify for any other shows.
Yeah, he has two
works
jobs.
2 jobs.
Well, then there you go. That'll do it.
He's a hard worker.
But just because we haven't seen him on the show doesn't mean he hasn't attempted qualifying either.
Yeah, I know he's tried a few qualifiers since that very first show. I mean, I can tell you, I've tried a lot of qualifiers and I haven't made the show, so it's not easy. You still got to throw the ball good. You still have to bowl well.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ TV.
Well, I'm sure you can tell him I can get you the 10 pins. I might leave you a few others on the other side,
Yeah.
But you know, Paul, that was a great point. You said, do you
it's
alter
an interesting
something
strategy
on the lane?
decision.
And in the past, you know, we've talked about little tricks, you know, like looking further down the lane, dropping your eyes a little bit. But one thing you don't want to give up as a bowler is the pocket. When you have the pocket, you don't want to give it up. And that's what you said. Do you really change anything when you're hitting the pocket? And as bowlers, we see there are a few hints. If you leave a 4-pin, and you move a little bit and you leave a 10-pin and you kind of got that 4-pin, 10-pin thing, then that's the time you kind of make a move. You change balls, you do something. 4-pin, 10-pin.
I call that being in jail.
Yes. But just a ring 10 here and there or a ring 7 for a lefty, no, you don't move.
All right, so that's a little bit off of what we've seen from Brandon as he hits the 6th frame there, leaving those 2 pins on the right-hand side. And so after the great run that started with 3 straight strikes, then the open and a strike, and now a difficult spare here for Brandon.
Well, this is just a natural transition of bowling. His ball started to hook up a little high. He's going to make a move. And sometimes when that strip of oil that you're moving into is heavy, you can very easily go light with just a slight move.
Good spare pickup for Brandon Degatti, 29 years old, from right here in Grand Island, as Mike mentioned. Works for him here at Island Lanes, among a number of jobs that he holds down. His 755 series was the high series, allowed him to be the top qualifier and get himself into this match. High series overall for Brandon at 867, and he holds the record here at Island Lanes, correct, Mike, for the highest series ever?
That is correct. I've been chasing him since, and
Wait, you grew up here, you own this place, yet you don't own that record.
Nope. Brandon owns it. Interesting story about that. He showed up to league late. He showed up in the 3rd frame, so that set 867 he bowled with no practice, coming in cold right out of the parking lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you don't have time to overthink it.
Yeah, I guess there's no overthinking there.
All right, so another challenge of the 1-pin spare here on that pesky 7-pin for Degatti in the 7th frame.
You know, I look at that ball in his hand, it looks like a snowball. And we're getting to be that time.
Quiet. It's early November,
Don't
but
jinx it.
yeah. So a good spare pickup for Brandon, and Joe Pullman now moves to the 7th frame. You get a look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard.
You know, and these matches have this emotional wave to it because Brandon came out of the gate with those 3 strikes and just looked like he was going to be unstoppable. And then that 1-pin spare
Yeah,
miss
look at the fist pump from Joe
changed
Pullman.
the momentum over to Joe.
Yeah,
and
momentum
he's-
shift in a 1-game match, man on man, is huge. When you see a guy open like that and you jump on it, it can really turn the tide.
Joe Pullman, 47 years old, from East Amherst, full-time occupation as a school teacher. He is also the Clarence High School varsity girls bowling coach, and they are 2-time division champions. So not only can Joe Pullman teach the game, he can bowl and teach people how to bowl, and those are not always the easiest 2 things to do,
Right.
are they?
Well, with any sport, you've got people that are very that use the fundamentals to their advantage and actually learn it and read the nuances of the lane, and then you've got people like, I'm going to say Brandon, who I'm sure knows how to adjust, but he's just got a natural power to his game that, you know, has a lot less to do than when you have to be fundamentally correct all the time, because he can create area.
Yeah, he
you know?
creates a lot of area.
Right.
And he carries well too, just with the power.
So he has moved in. I mean, you can see that he's a little straighter playing up the boards now.
Joe Pullman with 4 consecutive strikes has taken control of this match, and I think Brandon's feeling like he has to try to grab control back, and that shot didn't necessarily help.
Well, I think that's what Brandon was doing. He's doing what we were talking about earlier. He's trying to make that adjustment to carry that second. In a 1-game match, and you start leaving a few in a row, you got to do something quick.
So that's 3 straight spares for Brandon Degatti. And you get a look at the scores at the moment between Brandon and Joe. Pullman going for his 4th consecutive victory.
Right, so Brandon's down about 24 pins with only 2 frames left, so he's going to have to post a strike up here and strike out and put some pressure on Joe. There you go.
Big response from Brandon Degatti.
Now, if you look on that shot, he did open up the lane more and get it more to the gutters. Is he playing 9 and 10 differently? Because on 10, he was straight up the boards, more up the oil line, and on 9, he got it out to the right, which creates a lot more back end and a lot better hit.
Right. I don't know if he's doing that on purpose. To me, I think he missed out on that one. And sometimes when you do make that miss and it works,
Right.
that should tell you that you should probably be doing that on the
Well,
other lane.
Great shot.
Joe Pullman's on a roll, 5 in a row now, Sue.
I call that the cheater miss. Because when you are lined up and you miss a little bit to the right or left, depending on what hand you throw with, you can create some area. To me, if you make that your target, it changes the whole thing. So I know you're lined up when you can miss a little bit to the right, miss a little bit to the left of your target, and still create some room and still get to the pocket. But I noticed that if you change that to be your target where you've missed to, throws the whole thing off.
Throws it off and you lose your area, yes, definitely.
Joe Pullman now with 6 consecutive strikes, taking control of this match, and control enough to have determined that he will be the winner of this match. So it's going to be a rematch between Joe Pullman and Mike Zarcone for our second match of the day here at Island Lanes, as Joe Pullman has come up with the victory over Brandon Degatti with yet another strike. We will talk to Brandon and get you ready for match number 2 when we return to Island Lanes on Grand Island. You're watching Beat the Champ. It's a win for Joe Pullman over Brandon Degatti. You got off to a great start in that match, Brandon. What happened towards the middle there?
No, nothing. I missed the 7-pin, like it's routine for TV now, and then I talked myself out of making the right move, and then you lose.
Right. What would you, as you look back on it, what would the move have been that you should have done?
I moved 2 and 1 left and struck every shot for the 9th and 10th. That's what I should have done in the 4th.
Right. All right. Well, let your boss make you feel a little better here.
You did pretty good, Brandon.
Hey, it's better than the 2-0.
It's better than 2-0.
And I made a 7-pin this time on TV. I'm moving up in the world.
50%, not bad.
Yeah, for today.
You want some money?
I suppose.
Right, there you go. Take a little bit of money. Hopefully, don't stay there, Brandon. We're going to hopefully get you back more than 2 years on this show, so we'll see Brandon soon enough. Next match is coming up right here on Beat the Champ.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with Mike Zarcone, and everybody knows Mike Zarcone unless it's the first time you've watched the show. Mike's tied to be as our most winningest bowler here. So what's the goal for today? I think I just gave it away.
Right, I was hoping I'd get lined up and we get on a little streak here.
So you did qualify on this condition?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it was a little challenging pair to pair, but overall the score should be high.
And we are on actual wood lanes, so how does that make it a little different?
They seem to hook a little more than synthetics. Their house pattern is pretty easy, so we'll look for some high scores today.
Okay, well, keep it exciting for us, Mike.
We're going to try.
All right. So we have the doubles team of Zarcone and Pullman. Oh, wait, no, it's not double, the singles.
Yeah, it's the Blues Brothers.
Right. Where?
The Blues Brothers, both wearing blue, but I think everybody by now knows exactly what Mike Zarcone looks like, so there shouldn't be any identifying issues with this one. And Mike will start things off as he makes his 19th Beat the Champ show appearance. Now, this is a rematch of a match 2 weeks ago at the Rapids Bowling Center where Joe Pullman beat Mike Zarcone, and then that started Joe's run of the 3 wins in a row at Rapids. That's now up to 4 because he's won here in his first match here today. So I'm sure, not that Mike Zarcone needs it, but I'm sure that's in his head looking for a little bit of revenge, because we know Mike looks for things like that to inspire himself.
That's true. And these two are just great supporters of the show, great supporters of Beat the Champ, come and qualify every week. And that's why we see them so often, because they come and they participate in the qualifiers, and they truly are great bowlers in this area. Very different in their approach in their game, but really great bowlers.
So Joe's on a streak of 4 in a row here now, as you saw with the 259 to 225 win over Brandon Degatti. Just steady and solid, and we'll talk a little more about that when he comes back around after this one. Well, we'll talk about it now. Just demeanor is always dead on with Joe Pullman. He never gets, we've seen some guys get excited, some guys get down on themselves, never with Joe or his brother Jeff for that matter.
Right, and we talked about this a little bit, how, coming into that first match against Brandon, you could look at it as all things against Joe, that even though he was the incoming champion, he didn't get a chance to qualify on the lane condition. He's bowling against someone who works here. He's bowling against a left-hander who traditionally does very well here. He has a big power ball, and Joe's coming out here to figure it out. But his demeanor doesn't let any of that bother him. He just does his job, lets Brandon make his own mistakes, play his own game, and just does what he has to do, and ends up the victor in it. And that's what I love about his demeanor. But that's one thing in bowling you cannot teach. You cannot teach attitude and demeanor.
It's a personality
Absolutely.
thing. Some people are a little more excitable. Some people are a little more high-strung. Some people, I think probably the one thing you'll tell me as a coach is it's the people that tend to get down on themselves quickly are the hardest ones to deal with sometimes.
Right. I mean, if you look at the professionals, and I'll just make a quick reference to people in this area that people know, Liz Johnson and Jack Jurek, 2 people who I'm very familiar with their games, very familiar with their demeanors. And Liz has the absolute perfect demeanor. You can't walk into a bowling center and know whether Liz has 10 in a row or whether she has 3 splits in a row. And I myself personally have always, looked up to her for that and sort of tried to adapt that into my game. I don't want anyone to know how I'm bowling from 10 lanes over.
Right. Now, I think with Mike Zarcone, we see a lot of that too. And my question to you is how much of that comes with a long run of success and confidence where you don't get rattled? Oh, okay, I started off bad, I'll win this anyway. I think there's a lot of that with Liz, and I feel like there's a lot of that with Mike too.
Well, I'm going to say that, yes, Mike has a lot of experience, but Mike, you'll see when Mike starts to get a little rattled, or when, this right here. I mean, this is everyone's aggravation, an 8-pin or a 9-pin. And so far he's gone up, hit the pocket 3 times, left a 10-pin, a 4-pin, and a 9-pin. And I think we can right at this moment allude to what we talked about in the first match, is when do you make a move? Because in a 1-game match, you don't have a whole lot of time to strike. And 4-pin, 10-pin, we kind of mentioned that in the first match.
Yep.
He went 10-pin, he went 4-pin. And the result of a 9-pin is going a little tiny bit high. So is he going to make a move? That's yet to be determined. But I don't think you ever really see Joe get too rattled.
Nope.
Not that he's not emotional.
Yeah, oh yeah. On the positive
is.
side, that's, we've seen some fist pumps. There was a fist pump of frustration a little bit, but if you were watching our last match, you saw a bunch of fist pumps from Joe.
So now on the other hand, Mike's going to look at this and say, well, my opponent's he's having the same problems I am. He can strike, he's leaving 10 pins, so, all of these factors play into how you're mentally approaching this game. But I'm going to go back to Liz. And also Joe. There's ability to channel it that you can't teach. You can tell someone while they're practicing over and over and over again, everybody leaves 10 pins. You gotta look at what's happening and use your brain, don't use your emotion. And yet, adrenaline is adrenaline, you can't coach it.
Well, speaking of the word, you just used the word that I was thinking of. Joe's a coach. We mentioned he's the varsity coach at Clarence. As a coach, does that help you get away from some of the emotion and learn to stay more, because any good coach has to sort of stay unemotional to some degree, because you don't want that to rub off to your performers.
So which comes first, the chicken or the egg? I'm going to have to say that his natural demeanor makes him
is why he's a good coach.
Exactly. I don't think he learned that through coaching, but another thing is, to talk about is his game. His game is very fundamentally correct. Joe's not looking to create a whole lot of right and a whole lot of left. If Joe creates anything, he's going to look for that oil, that oil in the middle, and maybe use that a little bit, direction to the head pin, going at the pocket as opposed to away from it. But very fundamentally correct.
So Mike Zarcone coming into this match, an overall record on Beat the Champ of 15 wins and 13 losses. Those 15 wins are tied with Jeremy Zimmerman for the most of anybody on Beat the Champ. And if you don't think Mike Zarcone, A, knows that, and B, wants to break that tie, you're kidding yourself. That's what he is here today to do. And that's his focus, is to break that tie and get to the top. Now, Mike had a nice little run of 3 in a row last month at the Rapids Bowling Center before Joe Pullman beat him. So, again, we know Mike Zarcone has the ability to go on a nice little streak, and now that's 2 strikes in a row, so he's got a streak going right there.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
Well, that's one thing about a bowler at this level. When they catch a break like that, I see so often where they can come back and capitalize on it. He got a little bit of a break on lane 10, came out, threw an absolutely perfect shot on lane 9, and used that break to his advantage. And I don't know what the secret is, but for some reason, when you're at this level, you're able to do that.
5th frame for Joe Pullman and his 2nd strike. Don't want you to forget, and want to remind you that the top qualifier in the round of 24 for each of our monthly stops here on Beat the Champ wins a television valued at $500 from Dirt Cheap TV. Curtis Foss was the winner of the TV during this month's stop here at Island Lanes on Grand Island. Curtis is our alternate. He did not make the top 9 or the top 8 qualifiers to make the show this month, although who knows, as the month goes on, we may still get a look at Curtis.
Right, and that's an interesting thing to remind people that, you know, oh, what a great shot.
9-pin just would not go down there.
So
is that
now
the 9 or the...
That's the 9.
The 9.
And Mike left a 9-pin on that lane as well, so sometimes that could be a rack situation. You know, if the pins aren't sitting in their exact spots, because this is the ball driving through, and they throw it different, they got different equipment, so sometimes this could be a little bit of a pin-off spot. We'll have to see if we see more of those.
Spare in the 6th frame for Joe Pullman.
But that's a big deal because Mike's on a streak here, and he's already built up a 9-pin advantage, which, you know, you consider that to be still a fairly close game, but a strike here by Mike will actually, you know, give him a 20-pin advantage, and that could start to be hard to beat.
So 6th frame, lot on the line here for Mike Zarcone. Got the strike he wants. And that's 3 in a row for Mike.
So now he's up 20 pins and could increase it to 30 pins with another strike because he's got the string and Joe left an unfortunate 9-pin.
We do want to mention that as our show airs today here on Veterans Day, we thank all of the veterans throughout Western New York for their service to all of us here, and this is certainly a day to remember those that we've lost, but to revel in the admiration we have for everyone who has served in our armed forces.
Absolutely, and did you catch that 9-pin falling late there on lane 9? There is something going on, and he almost left it. He just nicked it with the ball and got it out.
So that's 4 in a row on the strike front for Mike Zarcone, and now the pressure is on Joe Pullman starting here in the 7th frame to keep up. And a little wobble on the 10-pin, but it wouldn't go down.
Well, that's a game changer right there. He's at a point in this match where he's going to have to strike or you know, hope that Mike kind of falters along the way. But one thing to notice, these guys have not missed the pocket. We've got a 30-pin advantage to one side, and these guys both of them have not missed the pocket once. So power of carry right there.
Yep. And the power of 2 of the better bowlers in Western New York who know their way around the lanes, including Joe Pullman, 47 years old from East Amherst. We've seen plenty of Joe and his brother Jeff on our shows the last couple of months. The bowling Pullmans always turn out in force, and oh boy, that is the bad break that Joe did not want to see, is a 7-10 split here in the 8th frame.
A pocket 7-10, no less. It looked like a good shot off his hand. Just bad pin collision.
Let's see what Joe can do with it. And he'll do nothing with it. And that is likely going to be the crucial point in this match that Mike Zarcone was already taking control of anyway, but a very tough break for Joe Pullman.
Yeah, at this point, all Mike has to do is keep the ball in the lane for 3 frames.
49 years old from Tonawanda, Mike Zarcone. If you don't know the bio on Mike Zarcone, if you're a regular viewer of this show by now, I don't know what else to tell you, but 2014 Obenauer Masters champion, 2016 Greater Buffalo USBC Hall of Fame inductee, one of the best bowlers in Western New York, without question. Maybe the best bowler in Western New York. I'm sure a few people would argue that point, and if they want to argue, have them come on out here and prove it, right?
No, you know, he's accomplished most of everything there is to accomplish in bowling, and, you know, I think that's why it means something to him to be the winningest bowler on Beat the Champ.
What a nice run from Mike Zarcone as he continues to rattle off strikes on his way to a victory that will move him past Jeremy Zimmerman to the top of our Beat the Champ victory count. He gets a little revenge from Joe Pullman thanks to the loss last month, and it's Mike Zarcone that will move on to match number 3 here from Island Lanes on Grand Island. We're back to get you ready for match number 3 when Sue and I return to Beat the Champ. Mike Zarcone ends his match with a run of 9 consecutive strikes, which ends your streak of 4 consecutive wins. Kind of tough to battle a Zarcone when he's in a roll like that.
Yeah. When he's on a fire like that, it's almost impossible to keep up with him. So I was hoping to get Kerry and just stay in the match, but it went away, unfortunately.
Yeah, and while you were still in that position to try to win this match, that the ugly 7-10 split kind of put an end to that.
Yeah, I needed that strike, and I needed to go off the sheet to put any pressure on him, and then the 7-10 just kind of ended it. He was in control at that point.
Right. Sue and I talked a little bit about how we're always admire your calmness out there. Where does that come from?
Oh, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm really calm. I feel like I'm pumping everything out, and but I don't know. I think it's a little coaching. Coaching helps keep you calm. Teaching, working with kids all the time helps you keep calm, because if you're not calm, you're not going to be a good teacher.
Well, from a guy who's never calm, at least he's calm enough to give you some prize money.
Yeah, good run, Joel. Great job.
Thank you.
Here's some consolation. Yep. You couldn't do this 7-10 against my boy?
No, I know. He was hoping, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Well, a terrific match between 2 of our best Beat the Champ bowlers. Mike Zarcone's got another match to try to win. We're back with that when we return to Malwitz's Island Lanes on Grand Island. You're watching Beat the Champ.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with Mike Cricum. Cricum, a well-known name in the bowling community, but you picked it up late. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the sport.
We were in other sports. We were playing hockey growing up a lot, so that's when youth bowling was going on. So we decided to play hockey instead of bowl, and then as the years go down, hockey went down, and started picking up bowling and found a family here at Malwitz Island Lanes and just became one of the regulars.
I know. I saw you when you were like that big when I was working at Tonawanda Bowling Center, and you were getting on a chair to pick the darts out of the board, and the next time I saw you, you were with Mike Malwitz bowling the sweeper at Transit Lanes. So you really, I've known you a long time, but you really came a long way in a short period of time. So how long have you been bowling?
I think like 5 years now, so it goes up a little bit, and I got the right family here to do it, to help me out, and if I have any questions or practice, I got a lot of people to ask.
All right, well, that's amazing, and we look forward to watching you bowl today.
Thank you.
All right.
Cricum and Zarcone for match number 3 here on week 1 at Island Lanes. Now, this is a little bit of a late change, Sue, because it was supposed to be Steve Biondi bowling in this match, but he came up with an injury right before the match started, so Mike Cricum was next on the qualifying list, so he moves up now to bowl this match against Mike Zarcone. Everybody else moves up a notch, and our alternate bowler, who is Curtis Foss, now moves into that final match spot, which we'll have later on tomorrow.
Right, you mentioned Curtis won the TV.
Yes,
as high qualifier, but yet when it came to coming back for the roll-off, he actually finished 10th. 10th, which is the alternate spot. So just in case something occurs, the alternate comes and is ready to go in needed, and today he was needed.
Mike Malwitz joining us once again from here at Malwitz's Island Lanes. Mike Cricum is one of your guys. You know him pretty well, so you can tell us a little bit about the guy we weren't expecting to see until our second show, but we're getting a look at him now as he makes his Beat the Champ debut.
Yeah, he's another one of my guys from here, one of our bowlers that made the show. Mike is one of those that didn't really grow up serious in bowling. I think he started bowling after high school, seriously. And so I just met him, 6-7 years ago. But he's really come a long way. He's really, really eager to learn, and he practices a lot, and he's just gung-ho all about it. So.
Which is kind of shocking because he comes from a bowling family.
I know. His mother, actually, Gail Cricum, is being inducted into the Tonawanda USBC Hall of Fame this year.
And I've bowled with and against Gail for many, many years now, and she's, a very accomplished bowler, and his dad's been in the bowling industry his whole life. Shocking they didn't pick it up.
Yeah. But he, like I said, he's come a long way. He really practices hard, and he's got some game. So this should be a good match.
Mike Krykam is 28 years old from Tonawanda, as Mike Malwitz referenced. Bowls regularly here at Island Lanes, among a few other spots in Western New York. 5 career 300 games, a high 769 series, and a nice looking strike there in frame number 2, and a good cheering section on hand here at Island Lanes as well.
Yeah, the home crowd might be a little loud on this one.
So something else for Mike Zarcone to sort of lock out here, that home crowd cheering for his opponent. If anybody's good at that, it's Mike.
We're just throwing things at Mike to test his mental state of mind. You're bowling Steve. No, wait a minute. No, you're not. You're bowling Mike.
He had to close with the 9 consecutive strikes on his way to the 268 to 183 win over Joe Pullman. And that run of strikes ended with the spare in the first frame as you get a look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. But Mike's right back on a strike run here after frame number 2. And he's certainly happy to now have claimed the top spot here on Beat the Champ with his 16th win.
That was a good ball. So I mentioned Gail Krykam being inducted in the Tonawanda USBC Hall of Fame. My father, Art, is actually being inducted as well. And then in 3 weeks on our 4th show, our Baker team match play, we have 2 Hall of Fame bowlers, Ron Sutton and Ken Pelletier, also being inducted this year into the Tonawanda USBC Hall of Fame. So Island Lane's very well represented in this year's Hall of Fame class.
We got Hall of Famers all over the place here. So, all right. So what's the challenge for Mike Krykam to not only make his debut on the show, but then be thrown in earlier than he thought? And oh, by the way, you have to beat Mike Zarcone in order to make this a successful day.
That's definitely going to be a tough hurdle. He literally just found out 5 minutes before this match started. So he's got to just block out everything, and he only got 2 minutes to warm up, where everybody else was bowling for a half an hour to loosen up. So it's going to be tough.
Well, at least he doesn't have a whole lot of time to think about it. He just gets out here and pull his game and execute, and
that could
not
help
be
him.
too nervous.
Just throw him out there, and he doesn't have time to get worked up.
Sometimes that's a good thing, isn't it?
No tailgating, no pregame. Great shot.
Sometimes when you don't have to think, it worked better, and the 10-pin just wouldn't go down there.
Messenger came across, just barely went behind the 10-pin there.
I think the one thing you notice about Mike and his approach is the big, high arm swing.
Yeah, he's definitely got power to his game, and that can help him a lot with carry. Unfortunately, didn't help on that shot.
So it's 3 spares and a strike in the first 4 frames for Mike Krykam. Meanwhile, Mike Zarcone, after a spare to open, is working 2 strikes in a row. The 49-year-old from Tonawanda with the impressive 235 average. And we've already talked about some of the accolades for Mike Zarcone. It's a list that is sometimes too long for us even to get in an hour show. 3 in a row, not to mention his success on this show as well.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
It's nice to go back to the house shot after pushing the guys a little harder and seeing them get a little grumpy, Sue, with the lower scores. And, it's nice to see the guys really just get to kind of let it rip here and put some big numbers up like Mike did with the 268. So basically our first 2 match winning scores have been a 259 and a 268.
I've seen house shots break down to be just as ugly as anything else, depending on just who's bowling on it,
who's bowling,
where they're playing it. I mean, I still go back to a match where Gary Kenyon was playing straight up the 5 board, and he bowled Matt White, who was playing 20, and they killed George Sabluski's shot because he's a tweener, and he couldn't play in between the 2 of them because one was the shim, and they pushed the oil out and just created this wall right around the 10 board where it'd be nice to play. So I guess what we're saying is that no matter how you start the pattern out, how people push the oil around the lanes is still going to make it a challenge down as you go on.
Want to remind you to stay tuned at the conclusion of our show for the Ortner Overhead Door Word of the Week. Then enter to win an Ortner Garage Door Opener. Contest details at WBBZ.tv. I'm just noticing that Mike is throwing a dice bowling ball, which is pretty cool.
It's his spare ball.
That's the spare ball, right?
Right. But that's the same company that makes all those, the boxing gloves?
Yep.
Right. You know how we've seen boxing gloves, we've seen
They had
skulls.
a basketball. There's a basketball.
It's a pretty neat. It's a pretty neat look and kind of cool. And it's pretty amazing what can be done. There's a nice strike in the
Swisher hit.
8th frame for Mike Krykam.
The light hits tend to carry pretty well here.
And that's something that, as a bowler, you want to know too. What's the characteristics of the house and what's carry? Because some of these high flush shots that look great don't look like corner pins at all. Leave corner pins.
So we're still in a tight match here between Mike Zarcone and Mike Krykam. Krykam putting the pressure on Zarcone.
This is a perfect example. As you watch Mike throw the ball, Mike's deep. Mike's already inside of 15.
Right.
And I say Mike, they're both Mike, but Mike Zarcone, who, he's got that little trick to his game, a little shovel, opens up the lane. I mean, he's just got a trick.
I know.
What you call it?
It's pretty amazing.
And his carry is pretty good.
So a couple of stretches of 2 strikes in a row in this match for Mike as he moves to the 9th frame. There's 3 in a row.
So that one was a little bit
That was definitely inside.
Right, so he's created himself a little bit of area there.
So 3 in a row for Zarcone to really put the pressure on Mike Krykam to finish out strong as you look at Janelle Sabin and the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard.
So did you drill this ball for Mike?
Yes, I did.
What's he throwing here?
It's a DV8 Vandal Destroy. I drilled mine. It was toward the end of last bowling season, and I shot 800 the first night with it, so it was pretty amazing. I drilled this one for Mike before we went to Nationals last year, and he actually bowled pretty well in Nationals. We partnered in the Bowler's Journal together, and we cashed there, and he did pretty well.
So do you think that when he comes to bowl today, is that his go-to ball when he comes to this house? I mean, I know as a bowler, you know kind of the characteristics of the house.
Yeah, that's his starting benchmark ball. That's an awesome messenger there.
Wow, that was great.
A big takedown of the 10 pin.
The Vandal Destroy is his starting ball whenever he comes bowling here.
So 3 in a row now from Mike Krykam, and he can finish strong here.
So he can post up. Actually, he needs to post up. He needs them all, and he can post up at 238 and force Mike to spare.
Whoa.
Come on.
Yeah, it didn't look good as soon as he threw it, did it?
Got that to the dry?
Yeah, I got that
Too far to the right?
way out to the dry boards and overhooked.
So now a tricky challenge here to finish out from Mike Krykam.
Solid game for Krykam, though, being thrown in last minute there.
Oh, boy, came close on that one. Yeah, absolutely. A solid 224 for Mike Krykam, being thrown in early in this match, as we explained as we started, but it won't be enough as Mike Zarcone will get his 2nd consecutive win. He'll finish this out, and the Zarcone train will roll along to next week's show. And we got a great match coming in next week's show because it's going to be Mike Zarcone and Chuck Jagodzinski to start things off next week. And you talk about a couple of high-level bowlers and a couple of guys who take this sport about as seriously as anybody does in Western New York.
You're right. Neither of those, not that you ever want to lose, but neither of those guys want to lose that match.
They will not give an inch. We guarantee you that. That will be first match in next week's show, as we've altered the order of our bowlers here based on the qualifying with Steve Biondi having to drop out due to injury. So here's the last throw for Mike Zarcone, and he will post up another impressive score after another strike. It's a 237 to 224 win for Mike Zarcone. We'll get a chance to catch up with both guys and talk about next week's show when we return to Malwitz's Island Lanes on Grand Island. More Beat the Champ right after this. It's 2 in a row for Mike Zarcone as he'll move on to next week's show, but Mike Cricum being thrown in at sort of the last minute to have to bowl this match. Was it hard? Was that difficult? Were you able to just say, okay, let me go out there and throw it? Tell me what was going through your head.
I'm used to coming pretty late to bowling, so that aspect I'm used to just going up there.
You just got to laugh out of Malwitz on that one.
And usually it works out for me. I usually bowl better when I come late and just show up and bowl instead of practicing, thinking about it. But overall, it was fun.
Right. So your first chance to get on this show, overall, what are you going to take from it?
Yeah, a little nervous. It's a little warmer up here than I thought, and bowling a good bowler like Mike, it's a little nerve-wracking, but it was a good game, good match, had a chance, and didn't happen. Yeah,
all right. So the key to Mike Cricum's game is not thinking too much, right? Yeah. Sue?
Well, congratulations on being the winningest bowler on Beat the Champ now, which I know was a challenge for you today and something you wanted to do. We talk about the house condition, but there's still adjustments to be made even on a house shot, right? So what happened as you were out there today?
Absolutely. They started hooking a little more, so I had to move a little bit left. And, yeah, it's just going to be a carry contest. I got the better carry today. Mike's a good bowler. He'll be back.
Okay, well, good luck next week.
Thank you.
Right. Well, speaking of guys who don't think too much, Mike Malwitz.
What's that supposed to mean, Paul? Come on.
give a little prize money out here.
That'll make you feel a little better. And he is right. He doesn't usually show up to bowling on time. We call it Cricum time around here.
All right, well, maybe we'll get a little more Cricum time as this show moves on. But Mike and Mike put on a good show here. Sue and I come back to wrap up week number 1 on Grand Island. More of Beat the Champ right after this. Well, an interesting start to our month here at Island Lanes on Grand Island. Mike Zarcone, who's just kind of like the furniture. Every time we take this show on the road, he's always there. He's always doing well. And then the late substitution and the matches with Joe Pullman, it was a good start.
Well, absolutely. And I think early money was on Brandon being the home bowler, the house bowler. And, it showed some really determination on Joe Pullman's part. Couldn't take out Mike Zarcone, though. He was a little too tough.
Mike Zarcone is always tough. Great crowds. It seems to me it's as loud in here as we've had in a long time.
You know what? We're at Island Lanes. Mike Malwitz owns this place. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, one way or the other, Malwitz always gets people rattled and fired up, doesn't he?
Yep.
Usually it's you. He's been calm and he hasn't bothered you too much.
We'll see.
So far, we still got 3 more weeks left, so you never know what's going to happen. We're back to start off next week's Beat the Champ with a great match between Mike Zarcone and Chuck Jagodzinski. We will see you in 1 week. Thanks for watching Beat the Champ.